Bob Crane, best known for his role as Colonel Robert Hogan in the hit sitcom Hogan's Heroes, seemed to have it all in the 1960s. His charm, quick wit, and perfect smile made him a household name. Before landing his iconic role on television, Crane had built a successful career in radio, where his ability to entertain and interview guests made him a favorite in Hollywood circles. He was known for his versatility and sharp humor, even earning praise from Hollywood icons like Walt Disney. But the fame that came with Hogan's Heroes wasn't the only thing in Crane's life. Beneath his affable on-screen persona, he was grappling with a much darker side that would eventually consume him. Despite his success, Crane's personal life began to unravel, setting the stage for a tragic and mysterious end. A new beginning in television. Crane's transition from radio to television marked the beginning of his rise to stardom. His first significant role came in 1961 when Carl Reiner cast him for a guest spot on The Dick Van Dyke Show. This brief appearance, where he played a philandering husband, opened the door to more acting opportunities, eventually leading to a role on The Donna Reed Show as a dentist. But it was the role of Colonel Robert Hogan in Hogan's Heroes that truly made Crane a television star. The show, which debuted in 1965, became a massive success and ran for 6 seasons. Crane's portrayal of the clever and charismatic leader of Allied prisoners of war was so beloved that it earned him Emmy nominations and made him one of the most recognized stars of the era. His popularity reached new heights, with his image appearing everywhere, from lunchboxes to billboards. Crane's growing obsession. While Crane's career soared, his personal life began to take a strange turn. During the mid-1960s, he developed a strong interest in photography. What started as a casual hobby quickly became an obsession. Crane became fascinated with recording equipment and began documenting his personal life through cameras and videotapes. His co-star from Hogan's Heroes, Richard Dawson, introduced him to John Carpenter, a video equipment salesman. The two hit it off, and Carpenter soon became a close confidant, often traveling with Crane and helping him set up video equipment during their trips. Crane's reliance on the equipment grew, and his increasing focus on filming seemed to overshadow his professional commitments, eventually straining his marriage and relationships with colleagues. Personal struggles and marital issues. By the late 1960s, Crane's personal life was in turmoil. His marriage to Ann Tertzian, his high school sweetheart, ended in divorce after more than 20 years. Crane's first wife had grown increasingly frustrated with his behavior, especially his growing obsession with recording his private moments. His second marriage to Patricia Olson, who appeared on Hogan's Heroes as the character Secret Valdez, also struggled under the weight of Crane's obsession. During this period, Crane's behavior continued to raise eyebrows. Executives at Disney, where he was working on the film Superdad in 1973, were reportedly concerned about his increasingly erratic actions. By the late 1970s, Crane was no longer the television star he once was, and his career seemed to be on the decline. Despite this, his friendship with John Carpenter remained a constant, and it would become central to the tragic events that would follow. The murder of Bob Crane. In June 1978, Bob Crane was performing in the stage comedy Beginner's Luck at the Windmill Dinner Theater in Scottsdale, Arizona. At 49, he seemed to be preparing for a fresh start, contemplating divorce from Patricia Olson and distancing himself from John Carpenter. But before he could make these changes, Crane's life was cut short. On June 29, 1978, co-star Victoria Ann Barry went to check on Crane after he missed a lunch meeting. Inside his apartment, she found him lifeless in his bed, with severe head injuries. Investigators believed the weapon used might have been a camera tripod, though there were no signs of forced entry or theft. The lack of disturbance in the room suggested the killer was someone Crane trusted, or perhaps someone who had entered while he slept. The case was immediately shrouded in mystery. Investigating the crime scene. When police arrived at Crane's apartment, they discovered a range of disturbing evidence. Cameras, tripods, tapes, and cables filled the apartment, offering a glimpse into Crane's secret world. His obsession with filming had become a major part of his personal life, and the discovery of this equipment shocked many. While some saw it as evidence of Crane's private battles, others speculated that it may have had a darker connection to his death. The close relationship between Crane and John Carpenter was quickly noted by investigators. Carpenter had flown into Phoenix just days before the murder, and his whereabouts were inconsistent with his statements. Blood smears matching Crane's type were found in Carpenter's rental car, and suspicion soon fell on him as the primary suspect. However, the lack of conclusive evidence made the investigation difficult. A flawed investigation. The investigation into Bob Crane's murder was plagued with errors from the start. The Scottsdale Police Department, which lacked a specialized homicide division, mishandled evidence. Friends and family members were allowed to enter the crime scene before it was properly secured, contaminating the scene with their fingerprints and hair. Despite these issues, investigators focused on John Carpenter, given his proximity to Crane at the time of the murder. Carpenter had been with Crane the night before his death, and his rental car contained blood matching Crane's type. However, in the 1970s, DNA testing was not available, and the evidence alone was not enough to make a case. The Maricopa County District Attorney's Office ultimately decided not to file charges. Carpenter returned to Los Angeles, and the case went cold. The case reopened. For over a decade, the case of Bob Crane's murder remained unsolved. But in 1990, detectives Barry Vassell and Jim Raines reopened the investigation. With advancements in DNA testing, they hoped to find the breakthrough they needed. During their review of the evidence, they discovered an old photograph of Carpenter's rental car that showed a biological fragment. Though the original biological samples had been lost, this new evidence was enough to bring the case back into the spotlight. In 1992, John Carpenter was arrested and charged with the murder of Bob Crane. The trial that followed in 1994 was highly publicized, with the prosecution arguing that Carpenter had killed Crane out of anger, upset over Crane's decision to end their friendship. The defense, however, questioned the reliability of the evidence and suggested that other suspects could have been responsible. In the end, the jury acquitted Carpenter, citing insufficient evidence. The case was left unresolved. Hollywood's changing memory of Bob Crane. The funeral for Bob Crane in 1978 was attended by 200 mourners, including several of his Hogan's Heroes co-stars and Hollywood icons. Despite the loss, Hollywood soon seemed to distance itself from Crane. Reruns of Hogan's Heroes began to decline, and Crane's name became associated more with scandal than with his significant contributions to television. For his family, this was perhaps the most painful aspect of his death. Instead of being remembered for the joy he brought to millions through his work, Bob Crane's legacy was overshadowed by the mystery of his death. The man they knew, a talented, warm, and funny individual, was buried beneath layers of speculation and controversy. The unfinished story. Even after John Carpenter's acquittal in 1994, the case of Bob Crane's murder remained open. In 2016, new DNA tests were conducted on evidence found in Carpenter's rental car. The results were inconclusive, with only 2 male DNA sequences identified, one of which was too degraded to provide a clear conclusion. This left the case in limbo once again, frustrating Crane's family, who had hoped for answers. Bob Crane's son, Robert, published a book in 2015 titled Crane, Sex, Celebrity, and My Father's Unsolved Murder, in which he expressed his belief that closure would never come. He continued to fight against the negative portrayals of his father, including the film Autofocus, which he felt inaccurately depicted Crane's life. The enduring mystery. Bob Crane's tragic death remains one of Hollywood's most haunting mysteries. a man who once brought laughter to millions, Crane's life was ultimately marred by scandal, secrecy, and a crime that was never solved. His family still searches for the truth, but the answers may never come. What happened to Bob Crane that night in Scottsdale? The case remains unresolved, and his memory continues to be defined by the shadow of that tragic event.